Well, the first topic on our agenda today is right up your alley, Laurence, digital transformation. It's been the catch cry across the business world for several years, but there are some quite established organisations still late to the party. More and more we're seeing that it's not just customers driving that need to go digital. In fact, it's now the workforce that is placing all that pressure on their organisations. They simply don't want to work with dated processes, pushing paper, and manually completing tasks that could easily be automated otherwise. Laurence, would you agree with my reading there that it's the workers who are driving digital transformation now? And what does that mean for HR leaders in those organisations?
I would completely agree with you, Paul. And in fact, I'd link it back to some of our conversations a couple of weeks ago about the Great Resignation, because I think the reality is, if a significant part of your job is composed of boring and repetitive tasks, which could easily be automated. And in some cases, you've tried to automate and you've been told off, or you've seen your colleagues automate things and lose their jobs because they're no longer required. I think a lot of people are very frustrated by that work environment, and I think that's driven a lot of the resignation we're seeing. So very clearly, if you're in an organization that's going to be driving digital transformation from a customer perspective and giving a better customer experience, equally, it is not sustainable. You have to focus on, making the employee experience that's just as good. You have to be applying smart technology. You have to be taking the pain out of the workplace, so the people are, working more value-added activities. They're having more time with customers. They're having, a higher degree of work that is creative and actually makes a difference. Else you will lose those people, and rightfully so. So you need to accelerate that digital transformation, both from a customer perspective, but from an employee perspective, equally importantly. You're absolutely right there.
Well, let me get a little bit philosophical now. Is digital transformation a finite process still, with a beginning, a middle, and an end? Or is it now a continuous journey, almost like a whole new state of mind that's required?
I think both. If you look back at total quality movement, Six Sigma, knowledge management, right? Those things were incredibly important and a massive focus, business process reengineering, for a number of years, then essentially disappeared. People stopped talking about it because it became embedded. And I do think there's very much a generational aspect to it here. There's a lot of people in their 40s, 50s, or 60s that may have worked for these organizations for many, many years, for whom digital has been less comfortable. And where transformation programs have been done well, they've appealed to those people. They've offered reskilling opportunities. They've made it fun and interesting for people, irrespective of age, to get involved and to play with something digital and have fun. I do think a lot of the heavy lifting in the fast movers around digital transformation has been done. Right, a lot of legacy systems have been retired. Things have moved from outsourced to the cloud, from legacy systems to open source systems. And I think increasingly people are becoming more comfortable with the digital world. And partly that is it's in our own lives. Facebook has rebranded to Meta. It's given everybody permission to talk about the metaverse and to think about the implications that has on our lives, our business, our work, and society. Digital transformation, I don't think is going away, probably for another 5 years, because there's so many laggards out there for whom it is still a big challenge. But I do think as we become more familiar and confident in this, I've always used the term digital world and talked about it in terms of learning a new language. And, to what extent are you familiar enough with the language of the digital world to survive, to make friends, to get a job, to become fluent? And I think increasingly we're seeing organizations and individuals become more competent and comfortable in this new language of the digital world. And as more people become more fluent, we'll have less classes and less instructions and less teachers teaching this digital transformation stuff, because it will just be, that's how work gets done. And again, I think the most successful digital transformations have been where it hasn't been about a lot of extra work. It's been about making how you get your job done better, quicker, easier, through the smart synthesis of machine and human, of digital and people. And I think that will continue for a few years. And there's good lessons for us to learn from those that are doing it best.
For those HR leaders that are late to start on this journey, what are the first steps that you'd recommend now?
I mean, there's both the personal and professional. So they need to be reinventing themselves, whether it's something as simple as, watching more YouTube videos, subscribing to some magazines, reading books, go buy some crypto, experiment with some NFTs, as we talked about earlier. Start to play with this digital stuff, play computer games with your kids, try out augmented reality for the first time or whatever. And at the same time, put in place programs for your team. One of the biggest, and I've been, harking on about this for 4, 5, 6, 7 years now. One of the biggest mistakes I see in large organizations going through digital transformation is either they think it's all about technology, whereas it's largely about people and mindset and culture. You have to change the technology, but, and that's very non-trivial, but changing people's mindset and behaviors is even harder, and the culture. But they forget about HR. HR should be the biggest enabler, the biggest, change ambassadors, change champions, supporters. How can you be a credible HR business partner if you do not understand the digital world as well as the business people you are supporting and the new digital business models or prototypes, experiments that they're building? So I think there's a real onus on HR to step forward and to be the most digi-savvy people in the room. I mean, why not? If digital transformation is all about people, mindset, and culture, HR needs to be the most, personally confident and also competent people in the room to be the most effective, digital business partners, if you want to, use that term. So, HR leaders that are behind the curve, develop yourself, play with digital, put a program in place for your people. If you don't know how, read Chief of Staff Asia or call me.